you are most likely already at campus and you're thinking that you're in the wrong course, or you finished campus and graduated and you're thinking you did the wrong course, or you are interested in something and you're transitioning from high school to university and you're not sure what you should study or not study, and you seem to have parents or a family that is pushing in a different direction away from your passions. When I was thinking about shooting this video, I wondered what to title it as, and I settled for what to study as a creative. That place where you want to chase your passions and your parents are trying to push you into a particular direction usually has quite some conflict, because you'll be sulking about it, you'll be pissed about it, you cannot articulate it, and your parents also cannot articulate any further than you need to go to school and do law, you need to go to school and do they cannot articulate any further than that. And it's coming from a good place because they want the best for you. So the biggest mistake that most creatives make, and I don't even blame them, it's because you're coming from a country that is so young in terms of education history. We have not allowed our minds to think beyond, and that is where the Western world beats us at. Go deep, educate yourself, and then educate your parents about it, and have grace while doing it, because they actually do want the best for you. Hi good people, how are you doing? I'm happy to be back here today. Thank you for tuning in for this episode, and this is one of those that is from the heart. There is no script for it, there is no notes written or anything like that. It was inspired by a conversation that I had on Thursday, and we had a session at the Agandi Studios. It was a session organized by Nino Jack, who is the founder of Agandi, and he was bringing together senior 6 Vakis who are waiting to join university in the last quarter of this year of 2026. And of course, like any student right from high school transitioning into university level education, you have questions around what kind of course you should do, because that is going to determine the career that you might end up in. Maybe not fully, but it has a sort of influence on it. Basically, the next 3 years of your life are going to determine how the decade of your 20s looks like, because most people in an ideal way joining campus are like in their early 20s and all. And there's a particular question that stayed with me, and it was the elephant in the room for a good number of the 4 hours that we're together. And people were asking, I am passionate about creative work. I want to be a photographer, videographer, a graphics designer, actress or actor. I want to do architectural photography, but my parents want me to do quote unquote a traditional course. By traditional course, it was mostly referring to things, the normal streamlined careers like medicine, becoming a teacher, becoming a lawyer. So like there are courses that lead you to those kinds of things. And I remember there was a lot of things shared. The question was, how do we navigate that with our parents? How do we navigate the part where we are passionate about one thing, but that thing does not align with the norm of careers, of a streamlined careers, streamlined education, because you still have to go to school. So how do I go to school to study, let us say, 4 years of law, 5 years of medicine, and yet I truly just want to be a photographer? Make it make sense. When will I start? It feels like you're taking several steps behind. And among the things that were shared by the people on the panel was things like you can double down in your effort. For example, you can go and do the law course and then study during the day, and then let your day start from 5. So like you have a normal school day of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then you have your passion day starting from 5 p.m. let's say to midnight or whatever. So from 5 p.m. double down your effort. When your friends are going to watch Netflix, go and start, investing in that passion project of yours. For example, go do study the law during the day, and then in the evening practice the photography. That was one of the things shared. The other thing that was shared was get a mentor in the lines of your passion. So if you're passionate about, let's say, animation, get a mentor who is very good at animation and spend time with them while you're studying the traditional course that should give you the qualification that the normal world demands you to have. The other thing that I remember being shared was There was an encouragement that came through where people were saying that you can study the thing that your parents want you to study. Do not lose your passion. And somewhere in the middle, later on in the future, you'll find an intersection where, for example, your passion will meet together with the thing that you're studying. A good example I can give is there was a gentleman who was, I think, very interested in the art, in design or something like that. And his dad had him study architecture. And later on in the future, he found a way whereby some of the projects he's done, and one of his best projects is actually using tools. So having the best of both worlds is helping him. And that was good. But this is what I want to share from my heart, and a bit of it is what I shared during the conversation. I want you who is watching this video and is having those kinds of questions, you are most likely already at campus and you're thinking that you're in the wrong course, or you finished campus and graduated and you're thinking you did the wrong course, or you are interested in something and you're transitioning from high school to university and you're not sure what you should study or not study, and you seem to have parents or a family that is pushing in a different direction away from your passions. The first thing that I want you to have is to have grace for our parents. So for most people who are joining university now, they're most likely born from 2000 and above, like 2000, 2001, like that. Those are the guys who are now 24, 25, 23, 22, 21 to about 19, 18. Those guys' parents are mostly Generation X, and it means your parents are either in their late 40s or early 50s, right? A few of you who are maybe the last borns in your families, your parents might be in the 60s and 70s brackets, and that is a very small percentage. The majority of people who are joining university this year, their parents are like in their early 50s or mid 50s. What I want to address for you is, for example, the generation that I come from, which is millennial, because I am in my 30s. My dad is about, I think he's in his mid 70s, and my mom is in her mid 60s. I want you to understand that the generation of my parents, that was the first generation of Ugandans to have corporate jobs. Those were Uganda's first corporates, which means that before the generation of my parents, before that, Ugandans were farmers, Ugandans were the one prominent guy who owns a shop in a village somewhere and he gets all his merchandise from an Indian. Ugandans were casual laborers. Ugandans were doing jobs that did not necessarily require education or professional qualifications, right? Our parents being the first generation of corporates in Uganda simply means that the generation of my parents, I'm sure I represent many people whose parents are in their 60s and 70s. And these are young people who are either in their late 20s or early 30s. It means that they went to school because the colonial masters told them, go to this school and study these subjects to become this person, because that was the labor that the colonial masters needed for that time and the time that was coming. Many African countries were getting their independence, so they needed people to fill the offices that were previously filled by white people or Indians and Arabs, because Black people, especially Ugandans, we had other categories of jobs that we're doing. So the first generation of corporates in this country happened not more than 50 years ago, and they were our parents. So what they know is what worked for them was that they went to school, they did those particular courses, got certain jobs, and those jobs have given their children, you and I, if the odds were on your side, they've given you a better life than they had growing up and than their parents had growing up. Please don't be trying to make unique situations out of this video. I'm not talking about you children whose parents were living in London in 1960. No, you guys first go away. You guys first go away. I'm talking to the ideal, typical, common situation Ugandan. So it means that your parents did those courses that got them the particular jobs, and those jobs have somehow given you and I a better life and better chances at competing in the modern world now. So that means that is all they know that works. It's the only thing they have seen working better. It was being a teacher, it was being a doctor, it was being a lawyer. Why I'm giving all this background is because that place where you want to chase your passions and your parents are trying to push you into a particular direction usually has quite some conflict. It has conflict because you'll be sulking about it, you'll be pissed about it, you cannot articulate it, and your parents also cannot articulate any further than you need to go to school and do law. You need to go to school and do. They cannot articulate any further than that. And it's coming from a good place because they want the best for you. They want security for you. So the first thing is they want you to have grace for them. And that's why I'm trying to paint a picture for you to see that these are the first Ugandans that ever worked in a corporate job and wore nice office clothes and went to office. It's the first generation of Ugandans when we were waking up to go to the farm and dig and go sell things in a particular corporate association in the village, waiting for the white man to come and take them, or the Indian take them to the white man. Like, blow your mind. It's a very different reality. So from that generation, we are the first generation of people or of children, and I'm talking about millennials, not even Generation X, because the parents in their 70s and 60s are most likely the people that gave birth to your parents. You, the Gen Z, or the Gen Alpha, but the Gen Z that is going to campus this year, that is going to university, the people that gave birth to your parents, your grandparents are the ones in their 60s and 70s. So your parents who are in their 50s and the 40s, they had to do the same thing that their parents did and gave them. So that the second generation of Ugandans in corporate jobs, those are the guys in their late 40s and 50s. They're the second generation of Ugandans in their corporate jobs. Now, some of us were either lastborns in those families, but the millennials who are somehow siblings with the Generation X, we, a very small percentage of us, are the first generation of Ugandans to pursue our passions professionally. Like becoming a professional photographer and actually going to school for it. Being an actress or an actor and actually going to professional film school for it. And being paid well for it and having the dream of Hollywood closer to you. Millennials, we are the first people to experience that. And the oldest of us are in their 30s, in their mid-30s, or their mid-30s really, I think, the oldest millennial. So the people who are first experiencing pursuing their passions professionally, both in education and both in academia and in practice, are people in their early 30s and late 20s. That is the first generation of Ugandans having that opportunity. Which means that our country is at a place whereby we are just beginning to specialize into small things. A good example I can give you is Makerere University, Kampala, which is the biggest, I would say, and oldest university that we have in this country. Until I think 2012, if you wanted to become a journalist or wanted to get into advertising or marketing, or you wanted to work in the media, you had to do a course called mass communication. That was it. It is later on, I think in 2012 or 13, that then they grew to change the course from mass communication to Bachelor of Journalism and Communication. So even for the last 10 years, if you wanted to become a journalist or a PR person or go into advertising, you had to do journalism and communication, a bit of everything. And in the last, I think 3 or 4 years, there's now been more specialization, and the university has upgraded to, you can do a bachelor's in journalism alone, or a bachelor's in communication alone. You see where the country is going as we are growing through each generation. And on Thursday, I found out that there is a student going to a university in Uganda, and they're going to do a bachelor's in science of advertising alone. That is something very new. And the Gen Z who is transitioning into university today, I want you to know that you're the first Ugandans that are going to experience that level of specialization in education. For example, in my early 30s, and I wanted to work in the media, and I had to do journalism and communication, right? Or there is someone who was at campus 3 years ago doing their bachelor's, and they had to do bachelor's in communication, right? That means when you look at communication, right, there are like 5 things in communication. There is PR, there is advertising, there is marketing, there is media relations, there is events management and something. All of this is under communication. That means someone who went to university 3 years ago had to study all of this under the bachelor's in communication. There is me, who was at campus earlier. I had to study both journalism and communication, a bit of everything, right? because communication alone has advertising, marketing, journalism, communication, and all these things. But just 10 years ago, I had to do everything in order to work in the media. 3 years ago, for someone who's at campus, you could either do communication or journalism. But even then, if you chose to do communication, you had to do all these 5 things and even more. But now for someone who is going to campus this year, or someone who's going to go to university in the next 5 years, you can basically do a bachelor's in just advertising, a bachelor's in just marketing, a bachelor's in just events management, and the whole thing. So it means that we're in a country that is just starting to specialize. Like you can see, our history is very short and very young, our education history in Uganda. So why all this conversation? It is to lead us to the point of telling you that congratulations and good news that you are alive and going to school in a time such as this. Why? Because we're living in a time where now, even us as Ugandans, as Africans, we've come to a point where we've proven and now gotten to know. I just want common knowledge. That's the reason I'm doing this video, to make it common knowledge. And I want you to hear it from me that at this point we're living in, you can specialize in anything, both academically and professionally. I gave an example on Thursday that was a bit of a stretch. And I was telling people, if anyone watching this video is a Muganda by any chance, in the Buganda culture, there is a practice in sex education where they tell girls about pooling. It sounds very traditional, very cultural. You don't expect it to be academic in any way. I dare you to go on Google Scholar now and type in pooling among the Baganda, and you're going to have academic papers written by professors about pooling. It's an extreme example, but I'm using it to make you believe that there's no idea you're passionate about in 2026 that cannot be pursued both academically and professionally, and you could become a whole professor in it. You could go the entire 9 years from bachelor's to master's and to PhD in an idea that you think is so far-fetched, like in an idea as niche as painting, an idea as niche as sculpting, as photography. Hell, I just did a master's where my entire research thesis was using documentary photography. Not photography as a whole, documentary photography in Uganda at Makerere University. And according to my professors, that was the first ever visual research being done in Makerere using photography. Makerere has been here for 100 years. There's never been a student who had the opportunity to do a visual research using documentary photography. Mine was the first one in 2025. I'm doing this to liberate you and show you that the place of being in conflict with your parents over your passions and what they want you to study, those years are long gone. So you need to help your parents come on board, but the best way to help them come on board is also to expose your mind, expose yourself to the possibilities out there. And I'm so happy that you're watching this video, because it's opening your mind up to the fact that even if your passion is dolls and you want to become an expert in dolls, you can basically pursue knowledge about dolls both professionally and academically to the highest level ever. Gone are the days when becoming a doctor, an academic doctor, was only limited to streamline professions like medicine and law and being a doctor and all these things. You could literally say, I'm passionate about dolls, and go the entire 9 years to PhD level and produce a body of work and research around a particular niche idea about dolls. So what is it that you're passionate about? Is it baking? Is it painting? Is it sculpting? Is it podcasting? Is it sound, lighting, video, photo? Mention whatever it is. Is it acting? What part of acting? Script writing in particular, or acting as the entire thing? Is it stage management? Is it setting up like stage? Like, you know how people come up with a setting where people act from? Organizing those chairs in a line. Is that the particular thing you want to major in? Are you doing events, decor, and do you want to do decor in particular when it comes to events management? Take it from this video that you can go the entire 9 years, both professional and academically, to PhD level. So what do we need to do as Ugandans, especially young Ugandans? I'm talking to the millennials who might have missed a chance because you didn't know how to articulate this to your parents. I'm talking to the Gen Z who is going through this now and you don't know how to articulate it to your parents. First, sit down and do some research. Get the idea that you're passionate about, get that thing, research about it. It's going to blow your mind how much academic research already exists about that thing that you want to do. When you get that academic research about it, professional research about it, then you can invite your parents to the table, have a conversation about it. The difference is that this time you are well informed about the passion that you want to do. You've explored all its possibilities, both academically and professionally, and you're able to put this information together and be able to build a case that you present to your parents with information that shows them that, hey, the thing that makes law, the thing that makes medicine such a big deal is the fact that there is all this proof showing that you can pursue it in school academically to these high levels, and you can also pursue it professionally to this high level. So prove to them that this thing that I'm interested in, for example, sculpting or painting, I can actually do this kind of courses. These are the options of courses I have to do in painting. These are the people that have done painting professionally and academically. This is the work that they've produced. These are the awards that they have won. These are the books that they've written, to prove to them that this, your passion, also actually is a real valid direction of career. So the biggest mistake that most creatives make, and I don't even blame them, it's because you're coming from a country that is so young in terms of education history. We have not allowed our minds to think beyond, and that is where the Western world beats us at. Kids in the Western world grow up knowing that anything, any idea that you have is possible and can be explored to the depth of it. I mean, there is a man who woke up and probably fancied about stars as a child, and now he's busy taking people to the moon and back because his mind sees it as possible. If someone in Uganda had that idea of going to the moon, maybe it would have been crazy, like, please go to school and do law or do a teaching course. So yes, study about your passions, explore them to the very highest level, both education and professionally, and come to your parents with a case that has enough information to make them understand and see the other options that exist. I'll give you my own example at this point as we finish the video. I did journalism and communication at my bachelor's level, and I got a second upper degree. So definitely, like any parent, my parents were excited, they were happy, they were elated at my results. And they were sure that I was going to maybe go to a certain office and be a PR officer or communications person, or maybe be on the TV and they'll see me on the news at night when they're watching the news at home. And here I was coming to them, telling them I'm going to be a photographer. And the shock, not just with them, with everyone who was around me at that time, they couldn't fathom the level of failure I was hitting. Level of failure, I must put that in quotes, because it's because I did not know that photography could be a whole professional career for me. And I remember going back to the university and talking to one of my professors, my lecturers, Mr. Kaija Wilson, wherever you are, special regards to you. I remember going back to Mr. Kaija and telling him, Mr. Kaija, I want to do documentary photography. I want to be a photojournalist, but my parents and everyone around me is telling me I'm taking the wrong direction. I'm going to be a failure. Why am I resorting to taking pictures? As someone who has passed and I'm so brilliant, why am I settling for less? And I remember him telling me to go on Google and look for a gentleman called Edward Echwalo. And if Edward, you get to see this, I also want to give a major shout out to you. Thank you for going ahead of me and some of us in this industry and showing us what was possible. So I remember I spent so many nights on Edward Echwalo's Instagram account and just going. There was a time I think the order in which all his posts were organized from the first one to the latest. Because he was the only symbol of possibility I had for a documentary photographer. I was seeing him posting work or projects he's done with the BBC, with global media agencies and organizations. And these are the things I wanted to do. He had all these humanitarian projects that he had worked on with big organizations. He had traveled around Africa doing stories in communities. And this was the first example of someone who was one Ugandan, had gone to Makerere like me, was black like me, had an accent that is Ugandan and heavy like mine. and they were doing photography at a level that was professional, both in practice and academia, in a way that was not there before, in a way that my parents would not see. The mistake or the information I didn't have at that time was a video like this one that would have told me to carry Edward Echalu, gather some more information and bring this information to my parents and present a case of documentary photography as both a profession and an academic possibility. I didn't know how to translate what I'd seen with Echalu to my parents. And because of that, I think I had the first 3 years of my career were very tough because it was misunderstood, it was not accepted, it was not welcomed by almost everyone around me, which means I could have moved faster than I did in those first 3 years. Maybe there are hurdles I would have dodged. There are days that could have been better if I had been understood. But the only way I would have been understood is if I had the ability to translate what I had seen to my parents. And years later now, a decade later, at the top of my career that I've enjoyed so much and continue to enjoy, my parents love it. My dad introduces me as, my daughter is a documentary photojournalist. That is a term he has learned in the last 10 years. He didn't know that because in his generation, all they knew was doing education at Makerere University and becoming a teacher, a headmaster, a lawyer, an accountant. So I want you to have grace on your parents, but also go and educate yourself about your area of passion. Figure out all the possibilities it has both academically and professionally, and then build that case with the community around you. And you'll see that it is very possible for you to find a reconciliation from the beginning where you do not have to give up the things that you actually want to do, the things that maybe you've been called to do, the direction of the life that maybe you should take that you're gifted in. You do not have to give it up, but you also don't have to be shallow about it. Go deep. Educate yourself and then educate your parents about it, and have grace while doing it because they actually do want the best for you. They just don't know any other option of all these things you're talking about. To sum up this video, because I could go on and on, is do not give up on yourself and do not betray yourself. I hope to leave you with a feeling of possibility for whatever thing it is that you want to do. And in case you'd like to have any further conversation, like a one-on-one conversation, a personal conversation, if you're going through something like this is something that is from my heart. I really do feel about it. It was a very heavy burden when we're talking about it on Thursday. Feel free to reach out to me. Send me a DM on Instagram at Watsemba Miriam. I'll be happy to make time even for a coffee in case you're in Kampala. Leave a comment here with a question. I'll be happy to jump on a call and talk to you in depth about this and help you arrive at some sort of decision. Please, you don't have to do this alone. I've said it before, this is the reason that I started this channel, because these are things that I also struggled with at the beginning of my career and many creatives struggled with. And I think it's only fair that for some of us that have also gone ahead, like Echalu Edward was ahead for me, that I'm able to do this and make sure that the next Miriam doesn't have to have the first 3 years of their career not being understood. So until the next one, I hope you stay safe and keep creating. Bye.